I have not received any declarations of interest, so we'll move on to item 3, public participation. We have no public forums this morning, but a few deputations. So for a starter, I'd like to invite Mark Rocket from Kia Aerospace to come up and present to us. Welcome, Mark. He's here to talk about item 6, the International Relations Policy Framework.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, bud.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, and councillors, esteemed group that we have here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk today. I'm wearing two hats. One, I'm the CEO of Kia Aerospace, and also I'm the President of Aerospace New Zealand / Aerospace Christchurch. So just talking about the travel that is planned and discussed at the moment. So from an industry perspective, I believe it's really important for the Mayor and elected members to travel to the US to build connections in Seattle. I was part of the trade delegation last year to Adelaide, and that was with Deputy Mayor Andrew Turner and Councillor Anne Galloway and a range of other people. This enabled us to meet the Governor and the Aerospace Hub at Lot 14 and a range of other connections. It opened up a dialogue at a much higher level than a lot of other business travel that I've been part of, so it was really useful. And I think it was really useful to give the City Council and Christchurch NZ staff an opportunity to see examples of strategic thinking and infrastructure investment in Australia. So I think getting that context, bringing those ideas back here to the city is very, very useful. The reality is that countries like Australia are investing a lot of money into high growth activities and sectors, and it is really hard for New Zealand to compete on some of those areas. So we do need to think really strategically how we can attract and develop businesses here. America holds a lot of interest for aerospace companies and a lot of opportunity for our city. In March, we had the administrators of NASA visit Christchurch. So we had the administrator and the deputy administrator of NASA. I mean, their budget is about $40 billion per year. So, you know, they've got pretty extensive budgets to tap into. And I'd love to see them to work with more companies in Christchurch and in New Zealand. You know, they're already working with companies such as Rocket Lab and Fabrum here in Christchurch. And yeah, I think there's a massive opportunity for us to engage and develop those sort of projects. And one strategic thing that the government has done is put $9 million into a fund where New Zealand companies can apply for that to use that funding. So it'd be fantastic to see some Christchurch companies be able to work with NASA in the aerospace capacity. So I think, you know, having the city's support for this emerging aerospace industry is important, and you know, I'd hope that this trip to the US would help develop those interesting connections. That's it.
Very, very good. Mark, did you have a question? Yep. And Jimmy?
Thank you, Mark. That was a great presentation. Would you be looking to join any delegation that was going to the US?
Yes, I would.
Excellent. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
James?
Thanks, Mark, and good to see you. Do you think, from your experience with these, at a tangible level, do you think that these sorts of delegations and connections with these strategic centres make a tangible, positive difference to our businesses in Christchurch?
Yeah, well, you saw the administrator of NASA and deputy administrator get on the plane, come over to New Zealand, try and engage with New Zealand. So, I mean, I think that's an indication that they think it's pretty important. And yeah, I think, again, you know, Adelaide was very successful just giving people of the city exposure to other ideas and other strategic thinking. We can bring these ideas back to the city. So I think the same thing will happen in the US. Seattle, our sister city Seattle over there, is a hotbed of aerospace activity. I think it could open up some really exciting opportunities where we can bring projects back. We can start connecting with some other entities over there. So yeah, I'd be very optimistic that we can, you know, develop and, you know, forge those relationships.
Thank you.
Kelly?
Thanks, Mark. Great to see you. Just in terms of the budding aerospace industry in Christchurch, how many jobs do you know are sort of forecast to be filled in the next, or need to be filled in the next sort of year or so?
The next year or so, yeah, I'm not quite sure what the numbers there, but I mean, you look at Dawn Aerospace, you know, they're growing fast. care. There's dozens of companies that are developing these high value, high tech jobs. So yeah, I mean, I'd say hundreds. I'm not sure the exact number, but what we're trying to do at Aerospace Christchurch / Aerospace New Zealand is attract people to set up businesses here. We've got a talent pool coming out of the University of Canterbury. We don't want them to go off and work in Auckland at Rocket Lab or offshore. We want them to basically build their talent and what they're doing here in this city. So ultimately, you would love to see dozens of successful aerospace companies operating out of this region, and that will obviously create many thousands of aerospace jobs.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? No? All good? Thank you very much, Mark. Brilliant as usual. Thank you. So next we have Francis Sullivan from LGNZ, who will also speak about item 6. Thank you, Francis.
Good morning. Thank you. Abola, Talofa, Maloni, Kirana. There's a number of salutations that the Pacific TA program that I manage out of LGNZ ensures that I get to hear and use on a regular basis. So this program, Pacific TA, is a completely different lens of international relations to what you've just heard about. Pacific TA meaning Pacific Technical Assistance, and it's a Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade and MFAT funded program that provides for the exchange of knowledge and expertise between councils in New Zealand and organisations in the Pacific Islands who are doing the same work that councils do. Now, I say that because there's a range of partners that we have. They could be a ministry, they could be an infrastructure ministry, they could be a city council in the same way that we view a city. It might even be, for example, the Ministry of Police, who we work with in Samoa to introduce dog management. So the key is it's technical assistance, and it covers the ambit of work that councils in New Zealand are involved in, and a range of partners in the Pacific Island countries. The program's been running for about 10 years. We're about to embark on another 5 years of a contract with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. The program is currently administered out of local government New Zealand, but it is moving over to Taitoa Rā. The relationship between LGNZ and Taitoa Rā will continue through the steering committee or the board for the program. So Taitoa Rā being the officers' membership organisation for councils in New Zealand, LGNZ being the elected members side of it. The councils involved are both large and small. For example, the Far North District Council is about to go up to Kiribati, again on dog control. Dog control is a popular one. But it's really my role and our roles as people who are involved in it to ensure that we get, good, robust relationships with the partners that we're working with in the Pacific. And scale, obviously, can be one of those things that we think about in terms of who we're marrying up with each other. In February, the capital cities of Honiara City Council, Port Vila City Council, who were supposed to be here, and Suva City Council, we're here in Christchurch. Christchurch offers a really unique opportunity to showcase how the better build component of city development. The capital cities in the Pacific Islands are having significant urban growth challenges at the moment. They struggle somewhat a little bit with grappling with, putting together visions that they can hold on to and how to deliver that. But all of that needs to be bedded in with good technical expertise around CPTED, crime prevention through design, for example. And they really very much enjoyed their time here. They learned a lot about it. They spent a lot of time in and around the city and enjoyed walking around it. So why are we involved in this program? I guess that's as big a range of reasons as there are people that are involved in it. You could think about it from an economic perspective. Technical assistance providers or the advisors out of councils often make connections with the people that they're working with here in New Zealand, the businesses that they're working with here in New Zealand. There's obviously the geopolitical situation that people are looking to. It's a fantastic professional development for people in New Zealand, but really for me it broadens our understanding and our connectivity with Pacific partners, with Pacific Islands, with whānau from the Pacific. The connectivity, the social connections with the Pacific are quite deep and long term, and so there are a lot of opportunities around that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone got any questions? Tyrone, please.
Thank you. Yeah, really interesting. So are there any countries in the Pacific that you don't engage with, like, like the Francophone countries or dependencies of European countries or whatever? Yeah.
So the relationships are with countries that have what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade calls bilateral relationships with New Zealand. So that does mean that we don't work with Tahiti or New Caledonia, for example, but we do work with other countries. The list is quite long.
Is there a list?
In my head there is, yes.
Okay.
We work with the Cook Islands, we work with Samoa, we would work with Tonga, but we haven't got anything active there at the moment. We would work with Niue. There's something in the background around Niue. We're actively involved in the moment with the Solomon Islands, with Fiji, with Vanuatu. We've done a little bit of work in Papua New Guinea, not in Port Moresby, but in Lae City Authority. So it's a reasonably extensive range of countries that we work in.
Thanks, Tyrone. Yanni, please.
Thank you for the work that you do. No doubt it's incredibly valuable. I'm just wondering, in terms of a city, or is LGNZ aware of city-to-city relationships with the Pacific? Are you aware that some councils do have those? And do you think, on top of the work that you're doing, to have some sort of relationship from the Pacific community in Christchurch with a Pacific community in the Pacific, if that would be something that you think we should be looking at as well? So complementary rather than, at the expense of.
Yeah, the one thing I did notice with the partners that were here in Christchurch in February were they were quite keen to look at sister city relationships. Now, that's not something that I engage in, but there are definitely opportunities there if you choose and you would want to do that sort of develop that relationship with them. From the program's perspective, it's very much about that relationship building, as I said, and that connectivity that takes you beyond the sister city relationships and connects more into that community aspect that personally I think is quite unique to local government, because local government is the body that's closest to the community, and our communities are very linked at those levels, and we could certainly improve on that as well. Yeah.
Thank you. No other questions? Thank you very much, Francis, for making the effort to come in. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okie doke. Finally, I'd like to welcome Don Babe from Spokes, who is going to talk about some of the information shared in the climate portfolio report. Welcome, Don.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. One of the things I really want to talk about today is the divisions over the new cycle lane that have been put along Park Terrace, and it is linked into the climate change things. I'm not going to discuss the nuts and bolts of it, but I would like to look at a far bigger concern. We're seeing road space changes being described in words that are more provocative than necessary. We're not at war over these changes, and discussion about them is good for all interested parties. I've heard deputations like this one described as cyclists once again banging on about their cause. Yes, we do. We're advocates. We're also people that are members of society. And people just sort of think of cyclists as just them sort of thing. So just to humanise things, I'd like to look at some of the reasons why people cycle. We've got environmental warriors. So the news about the worsening changes to our climate has to be taken seriously. A number of cyclists will see their bike use as their small contribution to slow this process down. It can be argued that the efforts of each individual are too small to make much difference, but if enough people do something as radical as change their transportation choices, it will add up. Government seems content to push these issues down the road so the next elected lot can deal with it, but some people are doing their own thing with little help from governments. Then we've got fitness freaks. With a lot more people having sedentary jobs, exercise has become important. We see this in the number of gyms that seem to be popping up in buildings all over town. The best exercise is something that is done regularly, and bicycle journeys fit this criteria very well. Fun lovers. As Councillor Kewen mentioned last time I presented to you, cycling is fun. Apparently car drivers are amongst the least happy travellers in the world, so the opportunity to complete journeys in a better frame of mind is beneficial. Economy driven. The automobile has been calculating the total cost of car ownership for a number of years. When all factors like the interest either paid or foregone on the purchase price of the car is taken into account, the cost is over $10,000 per year per vehicle. This is money that is diverted from other uses and family budgets. A decent new bike can be purchased for around about $2,000 and will cost maybe $100 a year to keep it going. For a struggling family, this cost difference is significant. Then you've got the health conscious. This is connected with fitness people, but also covers those that don't push themselves on every ride, a little bit like me. The health benefits of regular biking are well documented. The best example I know of is that bike riders take on average 2 less sick days off per year. Then we've got the newly independent youngsters. Learning to ride a bike, then being trusted to make unaccompanied journeys are big moments in children's development. I hope you can all recall those sort of times when you were young. And along with that new bit of cycleway is along Park Terrace, there are 2 schools, so they are being serviced by it. So none of these above people are at war with owners or drivers of cars, and most of them will be owners and drivers themselves. They have just made the choice to ride on a particular day. Even worse, they do not want car drivers to be at war with them because it is a one-sided affair. So these people, they could be your mother, your brother, your niece, your grandchild, still lovely people that we need to look after as fellow human beings. As the chairperson of the local cycling advocacy group, I'm asking that we continue to have our discussions and probably disagreements, but that we do it in a manner that does not encourage people into camps that are at loggerheads with other camps. The recent newspaper articles have brought a lot of responses amongst the cycling fraternity. They are mostly in support of the new bits, which is not surprising. I actually went and had a look at it this morning. I don't pass there very often, but it is a very nice facility, and it was very, very crowded. Some of the reasons why they were supportive were a bit surprising. One of the comments was the shared path and the path through the park that were existing before the new bit was put in do not feel safe after dark, particularly to women. Now, I can't comment on that because I'm not a woman, but they have a different way of looking at things. The shared path that has been in front of the museum for a number of years has become too crowded to function well for either pedestrians or cyclists. This happens with any sort of shared facility. As you develop, it doesn't work for either of them. Cycling on the road in the old times, in front of the museum with cars or small buses parked there, meant cyclists were close to the fearsome tram tracks. Even experienced riders report falls with this hazard. If the shared path beside the road is used all the way to Carlton Mill, the footpath crossing of Harper Avenue has a very small waiting area and feels very exposed with a solid bridge behind if a vehicle does go amok. The shared path nearest the road is under specification for a shared path, which makes it awkward for traffic encounters like baby buggies and cargo bikes meeting or wanting to pass. Finally, coming back to climate change. So looking at that emergency that the council declared a couple of years ago. If we're to have any hope of meeting our obligations both as a city or as a nation, both total vehicle kilometres travelled has to reduce from what is expected by 2030. That is not as bad as it sounds because the expected total by then is higher than what we are doing now. That means if we can slow down or even stop the growth in VKT now, reaching the target will become easier. Every year we leave it and have a higher total to reduce from, the more drastic the actions will need to be. Rather than mandating carless days, we're better to chip away at the appeal of car transport versus alternative over the next few years. Narrower streets, lower speeds, less parking and higher costs are sticks that get people that are using cars to consider alternatives. Like all sticks, there will be some that resent their use more than others and will do whatever they can to preserve the status quo. By declaring an emergency, the council has said that the status quo is like arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Thank you.
Okay, have we got any questions for Don? Tyrone, please.
Thanks, Don. You missed a couple of reasons why people bike, I think. Because it's incredibly convenient and practical, which is probably the main reason that I do it. Mm-hmm. I can bike, into the city in about 10 minutes and just whiz past all the cars just backed up along wherever they're backed up along. It's a way better way of feeling connected with our incredible city. And you just get such a great sense of all the beautiful, wonderful things we have in Christchurch when you're actually out on your bike and observing it and listening. So, yeah. So, do you agree?
Definitely.
Oh,
I have to frame it as a question, you see.
Thanks, Tyrone. Anyone else like to have a wee comment? Yanni, please.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering, your comments around the shared path. Do you think we need to kind of revise our infrastructure design standards and look at actually the use of shared paths, given the concerns that have been expressed? Because we've heard both from the disability sector and from others around the concern of just the conflict that's been created with the various types of people not using cars, but using those sorts of paths.
Yes, shared paths are always a compromise, and I often go to the walking and cycling conference, and it's quite noticeably, walkers don't want cyclists on their paths. And if you've got elderly people, they don't feel very comfortable walking on a shared path. And once as they stop walking, their health goes down quite quickly. So, we need to be providing for these people. We've also got people that are blind and things like that. So we need to have facilities for them. I don't mind using shared paths because I don't mind going a little bit slower, but we do get people that want to complete their journeys very quickly and they want to be able to do 30 k's an hour on their bike the whole way. And so they're frustrated by having to weave between people. They are a cheap way of getting things done, but if they are successful, they don't actually work for either party particularly well.
Okay. Tim?
With regards to human behaviour, shared paths and just humans giving a wee bit, do you think it's a reflection on society at the moment that everyone's a wee bit selfish? You look at our driver behaviour is pretty appalling, but bike behaviour would be in the same category. Just because someone's on a bike and they're flying along, you look at a shared path with a family with little children, the same issue on a road as a path, children do what they do.
Yeah, and my comment's always been, just because you put a person on a bike with a helmet doesn't make them an angel. You've still got idiots in the society that do either or. So yes, you're right.
Okay, that's taken us right to the time limit. Thank you very much for coming in. Well done. Okay. We now have moved to item 4, presentation of petitions. The Copper Ridge residents have requested that their petition against the Kaiangiora Estate housing development in Hallswell be received by council at today's meeting. As none of the residents are able to be here to present the petition, the minutes will note that it has been tabled and received. Okie dokie. Righto, so supplement.